Many people who leave a fundamentalist religion or who are in a fundamentalist religion have a lot of fear about making the wrong decision or running out of time because a lot of pressure is put on you to make the right decision and to make the most of your time. An enormous amount of pressure, really. And this is one of the mechanisms of evangelicalism and other cult groups to control people is to make you dedicate all of your time to the group, all of your time to serving God, including your mental time, your thoughts, and your emotional life has to be holy and pleasing to the deity. It has to be perfect, really, or always striving towards perfection. So I find that when I left evangelical Christianity, I was terrified of making a wrong choice. And so I had a lot of paralysis and anxiety about my choices, even little choices often, like what I would do during the day, but especially bigger choices, bigger life choices about career and dating and different things like that, because there is so much gravity and weight put on making a decision. And whether it was one that is aligned or good, or whether it was one that would produce disaster. And grave consequences in evangelical Christianity are really attached to relatively basic decisions. I mean, there is a huge amount of moral consequence and often divine judgment attached to making decisions and making mistakes or failing in a way that could incur divine wrath, potentially, or incur the disapproval of the community. So I'm going to read a Bible passage here, bear with me, Ephesians 5:15-17, and this is used to put this kind of a time pressure on people. It says, "Therefore be careful how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of your time because the days are evil. So then do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." So verses like this are used to put pressure on people with all of their decisions. Don't waste your time. We're running out of time. Time is a very limited resource. You have this life to get it right, and then you die, and you're stuck for all eternity with the consequences of the decisions that you've made. So you better get it right. You better make the most use of every spare second in devotion, in prayer, in right action, in church attendance or whatever, or else you could go to hell for the worst consequence. Or the other consequence, which is heavily emphasized, is that you might miss out on God's will. You might live a subpar or mediocre life. Now, there's a half-truth to this, right? If we ignore our hearts and our desires and we stuff them and we never really take risks because we're shut down because of fear of failure or trauma or making the same mistake, then that's true. We might end up resigning ourselves to a life that's less than what is optimal for us because of fear or because of trauma and things like that. So it's true that, yeah, we do have a limited amount of time in our lifetime, and that our decisions have consequences. But this level of gravity is just highly exaggerated and really harmful and counterproductive to leading a fulfilling life, I believe. That as we live our lives, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make decisions that, looking back, we might regret or say, I could have done it better. Or I just don't like the consequences of how this turned out. But we never could have known. That's just in retrospect. And that's just kind of the way life works, right? It's messy. Things are complicated. There are so many different factors, and it's easy to get stuck in this kind of a regret, should have, could have, would have, and get paralyzed about making our decisions. And this kind of mentality, I think, really keeps people stuck in regret, in fear of making mistakes, and it just makes it harder to succeed. I think it's better to have an approach where we're not so stressed out about time, where we're more thinking about a long game and working on our healing. saying, what kind of trauma am I facing that's keeping me from achieving my dreams? What are my blockages? Why am I not getting from point A to point B, and how can I address that? And often this means doing less, not more. Often it means including things like leisure and entertainment and relaxation, things that feel really good, which is kind of the opposite of, use every spare second for the kingdom of God. It's a lot of it is about allowing a flow of what they might call spirit, what you might call connection to yourself, connection to nature, connection to your sense of meaning and purpose, letting that kind of intuitive self-wisdom to flow through you and create in the world, create really your unique imprint, letting your unique imprint to manifest in your external environment, just as a result of you being yourself in the world and finding where that fit is between self and environment, and having the freedom, having the access to yourself to be able to move and flow in the world, which a lot of that has to do with healing. So I think it's this kind of mentality really harms people. And it can take a while to get over this sense of gravity that you've got to get it right. You have to make the right decisions. Or when people have left religion feeling like, I've lost 30 years of my life. It's all over now. There's nothing I can do. The biggest part of my life is gone. I have no meaning and purpose left. I've wasted all this time, as if our lives were measured on some kind of scale, time spent doing the perfect will of God or the perfect fit for me, and time not spent doing that. And again, this is this kind of rewards and punishments mentality here. So I think the reframe here has to do with letting go of this whole idea that we have to make the right choices, and seeing life and success more in terms of prioritizing our level of consciousness and awareness throughout it. Knowing that, there's a lot in life we can't control. We can do our best, but at the end of the day, we're going to face tragedies. Things are not going to work out the way we wanted them to, and some things are. And it's all about how equipped we are to handle that and what we do with that gives us a sense of meaning and purpose and aliveness. It's not actually about what happens, whether or not we succeed or fail based on some kind of external measure, whether that's God's law, whether that's society's vision of what success looks like, whether that's in, accomplishing all the goals that you set out to do. If we're living based on this external measure of worth, based on attaining to some ideal, we're always going to be striving and falling short or measuring up and then losing that when things don't go right. And I think more of the idea is that these vicissitudes are always going to happen. So taking an approach to life that is lighter, that says, I'm going to make the most of every thing that happens in life as a learning experience, as an opportunity to evolve myself into a better person, into a more loving person, into a person who has more resilience and equanimity, who can grow through pain and suffering or through success and not be attached to either, to really evolve our consciousness, our state of awareness and inner freedom and healing from trauma to the point where we are not controlled by our external environment. We're not controlled by the results of our actions or what happens to us, but we more have this freedom in our being that allows us to enjoy life, knowing that shit happens. And this is something a lot of people come to me with after leaving their religion, after having their lives fall apart, losing their families, their community, their sense of self. They want to guarantee that this thing won't happen again. And I have to say, I can't give it to you. I don't know that the next thing you're going to do is going to work out. I don't know that's going to happen. I do know that you're going to face additional tragedy and suffering, and that some things will work out and some things won't. And that can be terrifying for people who've been through such a traumatic experience like leaving a religion, to have to open up your heart again and face that possibility of rejection or failure, whether that's, again, with leaving a religion or entering into a new relationship or whatever it is. And the thing is that the ups and downs, the pain and the pleasure, that's a guarantee. That's the way life works. So if we can't control that, what can we control? Well, we can do our healing work. We can evolve our consciousness. We can grow in our ability to experience joy and peace and depth of presence regardless of what happens. So the experience that's happening out here, there could be waves and storms and all that, and there's more of a stillness or an ability to return to that inside. And for me at this point, that is the primary goal of life. That's my primary purpose. That's kind of my vision of spirituality, is having that essential nature, that sense of love and connection and vibrant aliveness to be more stable, more accessible, more expressed in the world, and more free, regardless of what else happens, regardless of whether I hit all my marks of success. And so this whole idea about limited time and just this one life, I think it really, really messes people up and can cause a lot of harm. And if you're watching this right now and you feel, I'm stuck in this, just know you're not alone. This takes time to work through. It often takes therapy or coaching or specific work to address the impact of feeling like, you're going to burn in hell if you make the wrong decision, or that if you don't go out and be a missionary or, give it all to God and give all your time and money and energy, you're going to live a subpar, mediocre life. That pressure really, I think, hit me just as hard as hell. The pressure that I have to use all of my spare time and energy and do everything the right way. And there isn't so much a right way of doing or creating with individual circumstances, but I think there is more of a quote-unquote right or more wise and skillful and healthy way of being. And that's where I think the focus needs to be, not because of some eternal consequences, but because of the quality of our life and our ability to be self-expressed in the world and with other people. So I'm Andrew Jasko, and I'm the founder of lifeafterdogma.org. I help people heal from religious trauma and reclaim a healthy, authentic connection to spirituality, whatever that looks like for them. So if you're interested in working on healing your religious trauma, you can click on a link below here to book an Inner Freedom Breakthrough session, and we can talk about what you're going through, what some of your goals might be, how to get some help, and consider if coaching is a fit for you. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.